Is that car slow? It is. Oh, Hamilton's back in position. Lewis Hamilton is the world champion.
Lately, in the world of Formula One, we have been experiencing a time of many controversies and uncertainty. We started 2020 with everything, served with the first controversy involving Mercedes' innovative system, the dual-axis system, better known as dual-axis system. A device that adjusts wheel-toe angle based on a system. It focuses on pulling and pushing the steering wheel, and its benefit on the track is still a mystery. Recently, a controversy emerged that will spark much discussion in the coming days. And that's because after an exhaustive investigation by the Federazione Internazionale dell'Automobile into the Italian engine, following suspicions from other teams that the Italians were cheating, the Federazione Internazionale dell'Automobile tried to handle the situation privately with Ferrari to downplay it, but this had the opposite effect. This has made me reflect on the major controversies in Formula One history, and that have given birth to this little ranking. Controversy is part of Formula One, and in its history there hasn't been a single season without it. In this ranking, we'll review some of the most controversial moments in Formula One history. So without further ado, welcome to the top 5 biggest controversies in the history of Formula One. In this spot, we have a small tie. 2 scandals that at the time caused quite a stir because of the way the team handled things. Nowadays, it's very common to see team orders. The most recent cases are those of Ferrari and Mercedes, who have used this tactic to try to stop battles that could put their team's races at risk, or to support their drivers in the championship. These maneuvers were banned in 2003 after a major controversy involving the Ferrari team. Let's go back to what was then called the A1 ring in 2002. Barrichello was leading a race in which Schumacher, no matter how hard he tried, was having a hard time catching up to the Brazilian's pace. And when it looked like Barrichello could get his second victory in Formula One, Ferrari told him to let Schumacher pass to boost his championship lead. With an inexplicable and unnecessary move by the Italians, the consequences of this action were brutal. The press and fans at the track and all over the world didn't hesitate to let the Italian team know about the mistake they had made. With serious questioning and boos from the fans who were outraged at how Ferrari took the victory away from Barrichello almost inexplicably. After this incident, team orders were banned for the 2003 season due to the negative image it gave Formula One. In 2010, Ferrari was once again at the center of a similar scandal. When Felipe Massa, wow, do they have a thing against Brazilians at Ferrari, was leading the German Grand Prix. Until Ferrari, to benefit Fernando Alonso in his battle for the Drivers' Championship, asked him to give up his position to the Spaniard. With one of Formula One's most iconic phrases,
Okay, so Fernando is faster than you?
an action that, though prohibited, never led to a penalty for the Italian team's results. And in fact, after this, they lifted the ban on team orders, limiting investigations to cases that seriously harm Formula One's image. So in 5th place, Ferrari's team orders in 2002 and in 2010. In 4th place, once unknown in motorsport, this story is now familiar to all. Because of the embarrassment that Formula One had to go through in this situation, we're in Indianapolis in 2005. During the second United States Grand Prix practice, Ralf Schumacher had a serious crash at Indianapolis's final corner, La Peraltada. All teams using Michelin tires began experiencing unexplained tire failures. After this, and a quick investigation by Michelin, they realized the serious problems their tires had to handle the banked corner at Indianapolis. After raising concerns, the teams met hours before the race to discuss their strategy. In the discussion, what was the best solution they had found to this problem? It was to install a chicane before the banked curve to reduce speed and avoid the Michelin tire blowouts, since they couldn't withstand the enormous loads of that turn. Some even said this race might not count for the World Championship. And if necessary, points would be awarded to the Ferrari team and all the teams using Bridgestone tires. But Max Mosley, then Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile president, and Jan Toth, Ferrari's team principal, categorically refused. And since no solution was found, all the teams using Michelin tires went back to their garages after the formation lap, leaving only 6 cars on the starting grid. And that's how one of the most embarrassing scenes in Formula 1 history began, with only 6 cars on the track. The spectacle was tense and regrettable, with people booing and furious at such an atrocity. After this, Michelin had to refund the money to the people who had bought their tickets for the Grand Prix. And this was probably the reason why Indianapolis was dropped from the Formula 1 calendar in 2007. The 2007 Formula 1 season was among the most intense. Between 2001 and 2010, there were a lot of main characters. McLaren had a very powerful duo with Alonso and a young Lewis Hamilton who was emerging as a star in motorsport. Kimi Raikkonen winning the season title over the favored McLaren, or the internal fight at McLaren between Alonso and Hamilton. But there was one main character who definitely stole the spotlight, the case of McLaren spying on Ferrari. But let's put things in context after a tantrum from Nigel Stepney when he didn't get the position he wanted on the Ferrari team. He contacted Mike Copeland, head of design at McLaren, so that in exchange for information about the Italian car, they would hire him for the position he originally wanted. Ferrari realized this and immediately reported Stepney. Stepney was caught. When the authorities searched his home, they discovered documents that incriminated him and his relationship with the McLaren team. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile kept investigating and showed McLaren knew about it. This led them to be heavily fined and excluded from the Constructors' Championship that year, in one of the biggest scandals that McLaren and Formula 1 have ever been involved in at number 3, the case of McLaren's Spygate. This is probably the most surprising scandal I've experienced as a motorsport fan. This is among the most famous stories in Formula 1. But for that, we go back to the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, a race that would go down in history as the first night race in Formula 1. And sadly, for the dirty trick that the Renault team prepared, after having problems that dragged the Renault team to the last positions in Saturday's qualifying, Flavio Briatore and Pat Simmons. Before the race, they contacted Nelson Piquet to ask him to crash, so that Fernando Alonso could get a better result in the race. To which Nelson Piquet Jr. agreed. The plan was for Piquet Jr. to crash his car at turn 17 on lap 14, causing Fernando Alonso to pit earlier. This way, he would benefit from the situation with a potential safety car coming out. The move worked out perfectly for the French team at the time. But what they didn't count on was that when they fired Nelson Piquet from the team in 2009, he wasn't going to hesitate to loudly reveal what the team had asked him to do in that race. And so the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile started an investigation. And after that, Pat Simmons, but especially Flavio Briatore, were the ones who got the worst part of this sanction. Briatore was banned for life, not only from being involved in any Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile activity, but also the drivers represented by Briatore could face huge penalties, to the point of not receiving super licenses. These sanctions ended Flavio Briatore's career in Formula 1. In one of the most embarrassing episodes in the history of Formula 1, and the most embarrassing for the Renault Formula 1 team. In second place, the Crashgate scandal involving the Renault team at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. For me, this is one of the most serious cases that has ever happened in Formula 1, the only time that I know of, in which the Motorsport Federation, openly and without hesitation, has searched everywhere to benefit another driver. A story that was one of the triggers for one of the greatest rivalries in the history of Formula 1. Senna and Prost faced one of their toughest periods, along with the team, at McLaren in 1989. The rivalry between these two driving geniuses grew so intense that even McLaren began to divide between Senna and Prost supporters. We would arrive at the Japanese Grand Prix of 1989. Prost led the Formula 1 World Championship, so Senna had to finish ahead of him to keep the title fight alive until the Australian Grand Prix. As the race continued, Senna closely pursued Prost in the final laps. until lap 46 of the Japanese Grand Prix. A scene that would make global headlines and go down in Formula One history would unfold.
And if Prost comes after any of them, this is the opportunity that Senna's looking for, and he's going through.
Senna and Prost collided at Suzuka's final chicane. Prost abandoned his car, but Senna restarted after track marshals pushed him and went through the chicane. And at that point is when one of the controversies begins, if not the biggest controversy in the history of Formula One. After seeing that Senna was back on track, Prost immediately went to the race steward's office. Senna, after winning the race, was immediately called by the stewards. There was much uncertainty then, as the delayed winners' podium ceremony signaled something very bad was about to happen. And that's exactly what happened. The Automobile Federation announced that Ayrton Senna was excluded from the Japanese Grand Prix, and the penalty wasn't for causing an accident, but for a completely ridiculous reason. After colliding with Prost, Senna rejoined the track and cut the chicane. And the Federation made a ridiculous excuse by saying that since Senna cut the chicane to rejoin the track, he didn't complete the total race distance, violating Article 56 of the regulations of the event at that time. And the penalty was even more ridiculous. Not only was he disqualified, automatically giving the title to Prost, but he was also suspended for 6 months and fined $100,000. After this, Ayrton didn't hesitate to accuse Jean-Marie Balestre, then president of the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, of favoring his friend and compatriot Alain Prost. Senna was treated like a criminal in a more than obvious attack by Balestre against Ayrton Senna. It was an unprecedented case in which the sanction and punishment were ridiculous, in an action that many drivers had already done before. One of Formula One's biggest controversies, exposing the abuse of power and authoritarianism by then Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile President Jean-Marie Balestre. First, Ayrton Senna's disqualification from the 1989 Japanese Grand Prix. And well, this has been today's top list. Thank you very much for watching this video. In the comments section below, tell me, what order would you have given to this ranking? Or do you think there's another controversy that we didn't include here that should have been included in this video? At Skyline Racing, we'll be happy to read each and every one of your comments and hear your opinions. I'll say goodbye. I'm Elio Navarro, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and like. And I'll see you in the next Skyline Racing video, where we'll talk more about the world of motorsports. See you later. Bye.